The little girl approached Kai, then whispered something secret in his ear. After listening, he spoke, I understand, don't get in my way. Mare widened her eyes when she heard him say that, reacted immediately, it should be me who says that. Wimberg above looked down impatiently and asked, have you guys finished talking? Without bothering to answer, Kai used the eyes of an assassin, focused on his target and said to Mare, let's go. He laughed coldly, his eyes full of confident challenge to the two, come here. The two's strategy began to form. Kai rode the wind from Mare's magic power upwards to approach Wimberg. Then she propped her magic staff on the ground and chanted, O earth spirits, the earth and stones below were summoned by Mare to float up, this time it's small stones, not a large rock like earlier. Then she raised her hand and shouted loudly, shoot him. The earth and stones as if they had eyes immediately flew straight up into the sky. Wimberg was still using wind energy to float there with a magic circle behind him, and the earth spirits had shot close to him. Wimberg swung his hand up and created a large gust of wind to block this magic of Mare's. That gust of wind pushed the earth spirits away from where he was standing. Having just dealt with a problem, his eyes changed when he realized he was still being targeted by something else. Kai, with the dagger, brought up by wind energy, slashed down at his level immediately. Very quickly, Wimberg raised his sword to block. Without letting him react, Mare swung her hand and shouted, it's not over yet. The earth spirits from before suddenly, under her control, turned back to attack right behind him. Wimberg glided as fast as the wind and thought the boulders were being controlled. I must dodge them, but it seemed he changed his mind. Instead, I should create a wind wall. Just waiting for that, Mare continued her combo, now wind spirits. As soon as she finished speaking, a whirlwind from the magic wand swirled straight up. It disrupted Wimberg and destroyed the wind wall he had just created. He exclaimed in alarm, what? Thanks to that, the earth spirits broke the magic circle behind him. Kai seized the opportunity, his eyes sharp, looking over. Finally, an opening. Blood flowed from Wimberg's hand and his sword fell out. His face was scared, thinking to himself, it's not aimed at the heart, but at my sword. Just waiting for that, Kai jumped up, using his other hand to grab his sword's handle. Then he did a backflip and stood on the large boulder. Everything still didn't stop. In front of him, he lost his sword. And behind him, he turned around and looked with a face full of amazement. The earth spirits hit him directly, without a wind wall to protect him. Wimberg took the full hit. He angrily stood there and shouted, you guys are good, destroying my defenses, but a high-level demon like me, you think you can even scratch me? Wimberg frowned and looked down. Anger was controlling him just by two weaklings in his eyes. Mare looked up, a little shocked. He's not hurt at all. Kai was still standing there, focusing on observation, holding the sword in his hand, thinking to himself that everything was going as he planned. Remembering, Mare had whispered in his ear earlier, his wind demon magic is very strong, but it still has a weakness. Her eyes were very serious at that time. This magic is quite weak against heavy attacks, especially earth element. Anyway, it's very difficult to use wind to move a heavy object. Looking at him up there at that time, Mare had calculated, even though we haven't broken his defenses yet, I can still use my wind magic. As long as I can disrupt his wind flow, its effect will be reduced. Kai recalled those things and thought she had prepared for so long just to get revenge. To destroy this demon, she had to have a complete plan and the necessary skills. But it seemed it still wasn't enough. At that time he had said to Mare, I think your plan is quite good, but remember to leave a way for me to attack too. I will take his sword. So the intention to take the sword was proposed by Kai. Back to reality, everything they discussed had happened, disrupting the wind flow and attacking him with earth spirits, stealing his sword, but only that he was still not hurt at all. Mare looked up at Kai and wondered, what are you going to do? His main skill is wind attribute magic, but you just took his sword. Wimberg stood there, saw his long tongue licking his blood and asked, aren't you an aspiring hero swordsman, or do you think you can defeat me by taking my sword? Kai replied frankly, that's right, but something unusual is happening. It seems the sword is reacting to something. From above, Wimberg once again used wind arrows to shoot down at him. Kai coldly used the dagger and the sword in his hand to slash those things apart. Suddenly, something approached him quickly. Wimberg was using his bare hand to block the wind sword in Kai's hand. But he was worried and trembling, his eyes narrowed along with a sweat pouring out, thinking to himself, suddenly I can't keep up with its attacks. With the long sword in hand, approaching attacks are much easier. A horizontal slash from him made him stagger and dodge. He was both defending and astonished. What the hell is this? Am I being pushed back? Taking the opportunity, Mare raised her magic wand to assist again. Right now, wind spirits, harass him. A large gust of wind from below blew up, causing him to lose his balance. He was about to fall backwards and shouted loudly, impossible, then looked at Kai and thought, this guy is following my exact flying movements. He appeared in front of him, raised the sword high, preparing to slash down, and said, "It's over here." Wimberg tensed up, the horn between his forehead and his face with many veins popping out. He shouted, "Don't you dare mock me. You are just a human." As soon as he finished speaking, the aura from the horn shot out, sharp and full of power, aiming straight at Kai. The impact created a blinding blue flash. In the distance, Kai landed lightly, and on this side was Wimberg's head falling off. He stood there and sighed, "I'm out of energy." The head was there, separated from the neck, but he could still communicate. "I never thought I would lose." He tried to ask Kai, "Why did you suddenly move in a different direction?" "So, you also have the mimicry divine skill," Kai said to him. "With these eyes, I can precisely copy an opponent's skills." He recounted, "During the fight, I copied your swordsmanship skills thanks to this ability. At first, I wasn't good at swordsmanship, that's why I didn't want to use it." Blood flowed all around his head. Wimberg lay there gasping, "Divine skill, hero candidate, so, you truly are humanity's trump card." He coldly looked at him, without hiding anything, and said, "I have this power because I killed your subordinate, Hector." His personal stats appeared: name, Shinju Kai, age, 17, gender, male, divine skill evaluation level 4, divine skill, weakness detection level Z, divine skill, long-range vision level 1, divine skill, mimicry level 1, assassination skill level 5, dagger technique level 5, throwing technique level 5, stealth level 5. Realizing the reason for his defeat, Wimberg slowly closed his eyes, not forgetting to scold Hector, "What a foolish disciple, letting the enemy become stronger." After defeating Wimberg, one of the 4 heavenly kings, Kai sat there looking at the head detached from the body. He took the opportunity to rest, regain energy, and assess the situation. Although he had killed him with the bloody head rolling around, he had also used almost all his strength. Kai thought to himself, "So this is the power of one of the 4 heavenly kings. There are still 3 more demons as strong as him, and the demon lord will definitely be much stronger. Furthermore, the demon lord also has children, like Isabel for example, and just one of the demon lord's children is already this strong." Kai sighed and thought, "My current strength is still not enough." While still lost in confused thoughts, he suddenly jumped a little. Mare was gently walking towards him. Her state of mind was also quite chaotic. After all, this was the person she had wanted to take revenge on and had prepared for 10 years. She looked at the corpse and asked Kai, "He's dead, right?" He nodded, "Yes, certainly." Kai turned and asked, "How do you feel after achieving your goal of revenge?" Contrary to the previous excitement, Mare now calmly replied, "It's strange, I feel nothing. I risked my life to achieve the goal of revenge, and now it's all over here." The sun shone brightly. She continued, "Anyway, I feel relieved, even though after killing him, my parents and all my villagers can't come back." Mare looked up at the sky, "But I also feel like I've let go of the past." Kai looked at her sincerely, "I'm really glad you're here. If it weren't for your intervention with Wimberg's wind, I would have lost my way." Mare turned to look at him. "I should be the one saying that." Surrounded by ruins, the large boulder embedded in the wall was a testament to the ferocity of the battle. Mare added, "I prepared myself for 10 years just to kill him, but still couldn't do it alone without you." She smiled, the relief evident in her state of mind. Mare looked at Kai, "Thank you for helping me get my revenge." He brushed it off with a bit of embarrassment. It was just a coincidence, it's not a big deal. But it didn't matter anymore, they had been together for a while. She replied gently, "It's okay, I'm glad I decided to follow you." Mare smiled, "If I had stayed there, I wouldn't have been able to keep my composure. Maybe I would have run away and died meaninglessly. I'm sure my master knows that." Kai turned to her and asked, "What are you going to do now?" Mare turned away, looking far off, thought for a moment, and then answered, "I haven't thought about it yet, I feel a bit lost right now." He stood up, walked towards Mare. "You can take your time to find your purpose in life, elves live a long time, right?" Hearing that, Mare smiled slyly, "Actually, I have half human blood, I don't think I'll live as long as my master, but let's see." She stepped up next to Kai, leaned towards him, and said, "At this point, I'll go with you." He asked doubtfully, "Are you sure? My goal is to kill the demon lord." Mare replied, "After you kill the demon lord, fewer people will suffer tragedies like mine in the future, so I think it's also worthwhile." Without giving Kai a chance to answer, she continued walking with a smile on her face, "Even if you say you don't need me, I'll selfishly do it anyway." With nothing else to do, Kai turned back and scratched his head in confusion. The more clues, the better. Once their reinforcements arrive, there will be many troubles. Even though Kai didn't answer directly, it was implicitly understood that he had agreed for her to accompany him, which made Mare very happy. She quickly ran after Kai with an excited mood. after getting revenge for herself, she would contribute to preventing others from falling into the same situation as her. Two small figures, one assassin from another world in the name of a hero candidate, and a half-elf with very strong magical power, walked forward together. Surprisingly, from above, a figure with a dark aura was secretly observing them. It was none other than Isabel. She stood there seeing everything, but did not intervene in the battle. She stood there, talking to herself, "They're better than I thought, it will be helpful to let them escape," but they were able to defeat Wimberg. Isabel smiled cunningly, "I can easily take the next steps now." Afterward, they moved together to return, climbing mountains and wading through streams, as difficult as the way they entered the demon territory. Shinju and Meir returned to visit Elbana, and both the master and disciple were very happy to see each other again. With a cup of tea on the table, Elbana's voice rang out, "I'm glad both of you returned safely." Looking at the two sitting in the chairs, she continued, "I never thought you would return so soon." Meir looked confused, not knowing whether her master was praising her or criticizing her. This caused the girl to stammer, "Master, I." Immediately, the sage patted her disciple's head, "I know." Elbana snapped her fingers and winked, "You want to go with that boy, don't you? Do your best for another goal as well." Kai was also a little embarrassed, quickly picked up his teacup to drink and pretended not to hear. Meir looked at him with a slight blush, and gently replied, "Yes, master." Sage asked Kai, "Hey kid, do you know the information on the front lines lately?" She immediately turned to ask, "What's going on, senior?" She recounted, "It seems your friends, the hero candidates, have been defeated." Kai thought to himself, Midu has lost, then asked, "Who is the opponent?" Elbana replied, "The highest operator of the Demon King's army, one of the 4 heavenly kings, the heavenly king of earth, Stonageria." Meir immediately asked, "Basically, he must be similar to Wimberg, right? He must be very strong." Kai was a little worried when he heard that his friend's opponent was one of the 4 heavenly kings. He had fought one and knew how strong they were. He turned to ask, "Are they killed?" Sage replied, "No, it seems they are still alive, but I heard that after the battle, their spirits are in decline." Kai put the teacup on the table, "I understand." Then immediately got up and continued, "Let's go see how the situation is." He thought to himself, "Now my plan is to kill the Demon King. I want to reduce their power bit by bit. The best way is to use them so I can defeat the 4 heavenly kings." Meir innocently asked, "Are the hero candidates as strong as you?" Kai replied, "I don't know, no matter how strong they are, if they can't use their strength, it's meaningless." Night at the fort, a long wall used to separate and defend. Inside, many seriously injured people are being treated, including the hero candidates. The sounds of moaning from pain constantly resounded. The arm of one of them was covered with wounds, although it had been bandaged, blood was still oozing out. Shirori asked Midu, "Are you okay? Let me heal you." He smiled, "Don't worry about me, Hano-san, don't overexert yourself, you can't use healing skills forever, can you?" The little girl with an innocent face replied, "I know, but this is the only thing I can do." So, with her healing ability, Shirori channeled energy to restore Midu. He thought back to that time, thanks to Heinrich's army protecting and coming to help in time, he was able to retreat safely. Midu observed his friends around. Everyone's injuries were quite serious, not only physically but also mentally. Rina, who used to be hot-tempered and active, now sat with her knees drawn up, her face distraught. The strong Erisher also lay there, resting his hand on his forehead in helplessness. He himself, being treated, also clenched his fists as if he could not accept the reality. Midu blamed himself, it was all because of him, if he had defeated him. Transitioning to Arla's fortress, the garrison of the demon army led by Stonageria. He was sitting on a watchtower alone. His eyes were closed as if meditating, the wind blew softly, the surrounding space was quiet. From afar in the nearby forest, the fortress was built on a large and steep rock mountain. Kai's voice resounded, "So it's him." He could observe him with his special eyes. Seeing that, Meir was very surprised, asking, "From this distance, you can also see the enemy?" Kai replied, "Because my appraisal ability has leveled up, I continuously receive additional effects. Remote surveying is also an additional effect of this skill." The little girl continued, "Your skills are always as convenient as usual, huh?" Kai said nothing. His concern at this moment was to grasp the opponent's information. Know yourself and know your enemy, 100 battles 100 victories. His basic information appeared, name Stonageria, age 75, demon race, male gender, attack B, defense S, agility B, strength S, magic S, normal status, earth demon magic level 5, swordsmanship level 3, solid defense level 5. His appraisal I continued to use advanced appraisal. Kai saw the details of the solid defense skill, based on the defense stat, defense will be multiplied. He seemed to understand the problem because his appraisal ability was at level 4, he could use advanced appraisal, knowing the details of the enemy's skills would give him a great advantage. Moreover, he also had the skill to detect weaknesses. Some time passed, Stonageria was still meditating there, he looked very calm after dealing with the intruders. After detecting the weakness, there was no response. Kai thought, nothing, so he was too weak at the moment, so he couldn't detect his weaknesses. Mare curiously asked, did you see anything? He replied, if he had a weakness, it would be easier. Kai continued, what I know about him is that he is an expert in using earth attribute demon magic and his swordsmanship is not bad, he has a special ability to increase defense stats, that's all I can see. Mare realized something, just as expected from the 4 heavenly kings of earth, the earth attribute is weaker than the water attribute. Hearing that, Kai immediately asked, are there any compatible attributes between the elements? She replied, it's not that easy, it also depends on the type of skills used. Mare turned to add, even if he uses a large amount of earth attribute demon magic, he will certainly only be proficient in a few skills, if I know what those skills are, I can predict his weaknesses. At this time Kai suggested, I think at least we should go to their place, what do you predict? The scene shifts back to the fortress. Midu is standing on the ramparts, looking into the distance. His wounds are not yet healed, and his eyes have a worried look. Midu remembers Kai's image and thinks if Shinju were here. But he immediately shakes his head and denies it. He tells himself, I must not run away, Midu Shuji, I will. Before he could finish his sentence, his friends were already standing behind him. Rina asks him if he's thinking about what to do, right? Then she waved her hand, I only know that much, you always want to do everything by yourself, huh? Seeing his friends there, Midu was slightly surprised and exclaimed, everyone. Narumi winked and said, don't be so gloomy, it's not over yet. Mireille added, that's right, Midukun. You're not fighting alone. Hearing that, he asked everyone again, do you still believe in me? Rina stepped forward and asked back, so you don't believe in us, huh? Then she walked past Midu and called him an idiot. Narumi also stepped forward and put his arm around Midu. Then he said to him, meaning you have to rely on us more, right, Rina? Midu looked at her back, and Rina stood there without saying anything. Then he smiled, relying on you guys, I've never thought about that. Narumi continued, you know, everyone gets stronger every day, if you keep lifting heavy things alone, your shoulders will hurt. While everyone was happily encouraging each other, a familiar person walked up and asked, so you're here, Mid? That person was none other than Erasure and his group, they were also covered in injuries, no less grand. He pointed and grimaced, what a pathetic expression, aren't you going to blow away that stone guy? Midu widened his eyes, surprised, I didn't expect you to be here too. Erasure clicked his tongue, really annoying, just us alone is not enough to defeat him. He stepped forward and proactively suggested giving us instructions, Midu, we will crush Stone's name. Narumi was delighted, finally Erasure is cooperating with Shuji. Mireille smiled, it must be raining too hard today. Erasure was embarrassed and turned to scold, shut up, I'll kill you now Midu. Regaining his confidence and declaring to everyone, let's work together and defeat that demon. Erasure smiled, your expression is better. Rin on this side was quietly observing, anyway, she is currently Kai's insider. She thought to herself, it's great that everyone in the class is working together, but we still don't have a plan to destroy Stonageria. Suddenly a voice rang out, startling Rin, long time no see, Kenzaki. She quickly turned to look down, but Kai signaled, don't make a loud noise, I don't want to be noticed. Hearing that, Rin quickly put her hand up to cover her mouth, trying to appear calm. Kai asked, you guys lost to the 4 heavenly kings of the earth, right? Rin replied, yes. He immediately asked, what kind of sorcery did he use? Rin looked down and recounted what happened during that raid to let Kai grasp the situation. He understood and asked, I see, he's a mud monster and controls them, huh? Rin nodded, yes, surely his techniques only revolve around that. Kai blurted out, just as Mare predicted. Hearing that, she quickly turned down and asked, Mare, who's that, is it a girl? Kai didn't want to delve into that issue, so he chose to change the subject, it's nothing, thank you for letting me know the information. Rin asked, aren't you going to help us, Shinju-kun? Looking at the seemingly united crowd, Kai replied, I was planning to, but it seems everyone has already solved it themselves, if I join in, it would only create unnecessary conflicts. Kai, with his sincere gaze as always, said to Rin, I will be your shadow as always. The scene shifts to the monsters standing on high, seriously guarding the castle. The fortress of Arlis stands majestically in the sky. Below, there are 2 monsters strictly patrolling. In the dense forest, the group of hero candidates are gathering there to prepare for a new attack. Kaori excitedly said, because Yumi is here, we are basically an army equivalent to 100 soldiers. Rina also happily chimed in, you're right, I'm glad you're okay. At this moment, Yumi seemed a bit embarrassed, poking her own cheeks. Thank you, she said, I'll do my best. She is candidate number 9, Kinoshita Yumi, she's transferring from the non-combat group to the combat group, Rina suddenly asked. Is there a reason you suddenly decided to join us? Yumi was a little stunned, then said, After that, Yumi smiled brightly and gave a reason, I heard everyone is having a hard time. Kaori immediately burst into laughter, praising her, you really are a hero. But Rina didn't say anything. Yumi smiled politely, thinking to herself, it's okay, right, Shinju? 5 days ago, Yumi, wearing a maid outfit, leaned against the door. Her face showed a hint of fatigue as she complained, I'm so tired today too. Kai suddenly spoke up, it's been a while, hasn't it, Kinoshita? Yumi, not realizing something was strange, replied, yeah, long time no see. Then she was startled, pointing frantically, wait, what are you, how did you get in here? But a second later, Yumi regained her composure and asked, are you really Shinju-kun? Kai replied straightforwardly, finally, your brain's working again. She asked in a fluster, her face flushed, why did you suddenly come into my room? Kai got straight to the point, right now, Midu and the others are in trouble on the front lines. To overcome the current situation, we need your abilities, the water-controlling guardian, that's why I came to you, Kinoshita. Yumi froze for a moment, pointing at herself, but I'm in the non-combat group. Kai calmly brushed it off, don't worry, you have the potential to be in the combat group, join Midu's group and help them. But now Yumi's heart was filled with doubt, how can you be so sure? Kai casually asked, you want to fight too, don't you? Then he informed Yumi of a piece of news, Leonora, the one who has deeply instilled fear in your mind, I have killed her. Kai added calmly, now no one can stop you anymore, after some time, the wound in your heart has also healed, hasn't it? Then the image of Yumi clumsily appeared in Kai's head, this isn't the time for you to imitate a waiter and break people's dishes. Yumi blushed with embarrassment, you saw that, it was just an accident. Kai directly asked, hitting Yumi's core, in reality, you've always wanted to help Nagase and Chinami throughout this time, haven't you? Yumi looked at him in silence for a long time. A second later, Yumi smiled bitterly and said, so you knew everything, huh, I'm surprised, I didn't expect a classmate to care about me so much. Kai bluntly stated his purpose, I'm just looking for a pawn that can be used. Suddenly, Yumi had a question, by the way, Shinju, aren't you a wanted criminal, are you really joining the combat group? He replied calmly, a wanted criminal can't join the Holy Nation's army. Yumi replied awkwardly, Rina will also frown at you. Before leaving, Kai pulled up his hood and turned his head to say, I'll act as your shadow, I'm here to activate a pawn like you. Back in the present, Yumi clenched her fists, reminding herself of her determination, I will do my best to show them that my abilities are useful. Rin, hiding behind a tree, had clearly heard the whole story and was silently observing. A few minutes ago, near the city wall, Kai stood below, asking Rin, that's the plan, do you have any questions? She voiced her concerns, I know we need Kinoshita to create a gap in the enemy's defense, but are you sure that's enough? Kai replied calmly, I'm not the only one fighting that demon, I'm sure you all have your own plans too, so just do your best depending on the current situation. Then, his eyes flashed with a cold gleam, I want to confirm how you've grown up during the time I haven't been here, tell Midu, that's enough. Rin, in the end, didn't question any further, turned around and walked away, replying, all right. Returning to the forest outside the Arliss fortress, a voice suddenly called her name, Kanzaki-san. His voice was very decisive. Midu stepped forward and said, let's confirm the plan one last time. Then Midu gathered everyone and spoke words of determination, we can't lose this time. Rin immediately agreed, yeah. In the lush green forest, everyone gathered around to discuss countermeasures and arrange strategic plans. Suddenly, a voice of doubt rang out, is this going to work? In the nearby bushes, Mayor, holding a bread in her hand, asked, do you have a better and more detailed plan, right? Kai replied, if everyone just follows what they're told, they won't develop, you think we need to defeat the demon lord now, so I have to train my classmates too. Kai's eyes became sharp, they are people with abilities, but they don't know how to use them. Looking at his friends there, he decided, I will help them step by step. He started by giving them clues. Kai also quickly realized, but he also knew well, that the most important thing in a battle is to decide your own moves. In front of the iron gate to enter the Arliss fortress, the guarding demon army needs secrecy with a lot of guards on top of the walls. A powerful imperial army appeared outside, preparing to advance and attack the fortress. Amelia rode a horse leading a legion, it's time. Then drew her sword and pointed it forward, shouting, "All right, everyone, advance." The soldiers immediately charged forward upon hearing the command. The monsters on the walls began to sneer, "Here they come again, the fools who haven't learned anything, doing this instead of retreating." Amelia, full of energy, shouted, "Don't falter, we must clear the way for the hero candidates." The monsters also charged forward without hesitation, eliminating the invaders. A fierce battle broke out, with the group of hero candidates led by Midu cutting straight through, powerfully advancing inside. He stared intently in one direction, his eyes full of determination after the previous failure. In front of him was a tall tower, and inside the window, a somewhat familiar shadow. It was none other than the old monster Stony, baring his yellow teeth with a smirk, looking at Midu sarcastically. He frowned, thinking to himself, "Is he waiting for us?" Soji then enthusiastically beckoned, "Come here, hero candidates, don't disappoint me." A large, golden door appeared before them. And a loud explosion shattered the door, with fragments flying everywhere. Erasure and his friends charged in, their spirit today was completely different from the last time. The atmosphere became increasingly suffocating. In front of them was the Earth Army created by Stonageria. He stood in the middle with a shield and sword in his hands. Midu shouted to begin the plan. A sound echoed from the crack on the roof. It turned out to be Kai and Mayor hiding there. He calmly observed and said, "All right, show me what you can do." Below, the warriors were in combat positions after hearing the command from Midu with the plan prepared in advance. The earth monsters began to act. Midu majestically pointed his sword forward. Then he shouted, "Begin the campaign," and as soon as the words were out, everyone rushed forward simultaneously. Rina asked with concern, "Are you all right, Yumi?" She was still a bit nervous, answering, "Don't worry about me." This was her first time participating in combat. Immediately, Yumi used her magical power to create water. The currents were controlled by Yumi to direct the water, attacking the monsters. Stonageria frowned when witnessing this scene. The earth monsters were frozen in place amidst Yumi's cool water. Erasure raised his fist and attacked them. A large explosion occurred again, causing them to be stunned and shattered. Midu also cut the monster's body in half without losing. Kenta nimbly jumped up and plunged a spear into one. "Take this." Atsushi used his ultimate move and punched them in the stomach. Akira used his power to protect his teammates. Chao, then, was at ease dealing with them. On Satoshi and Haki's side, they also tried to destroy the enemy. Immediately after, the earth monsters rolled over and shattered. Suddenly, a magical aura enveloped the remains of the earth monsters. Instantly, the monsters' bodies were completely restored. But suddenly, on their bodies, there were strange signs. The entire body began to melt gradually. And then they fell, turning into a pile of mud. Rina excitedly shouted, "We did it." Stonageria rubbed his chin, collecting his thoughts, using water. That girl wasn't there last time, so they've increased their numbers. In front of Stonageria, it was almost a battlefield filled with sand, but he still carefully kept some earth monsters with him for defense. Kai, looking down from above, also had to admit that it was just as she predicted Mayor. And Mayor hadn't expected this either. "My idea was that if the connections between the rocks were wet, the opponent would have a harder time controlling the sadder monsters, and it's even more effective than I thought." Midu seized the opportunity and shouted, "You see, everyone, the wet mud monsters can't regenerate, hit them hard." Yumi agreed with that and, taking advantage of the situation, continued to use her water power to attack. A second later, a huge wave was launched straight towards the monsters. The wave was like sweeping them away. Everyone ran together. And each person beat a monster to a pulp. Stonageria didn't flinch at all but bared his teeth with a sinister grin. "You're trying to wipe out my subordinates, huh? It seems like they have an excellent strategist this time." Immediately, Stonageria slammed his hand down on the ground. And vibrant red magic circles appeared. Mud emerged from them, but these mud monsters. "I'm ready to sacrifice them." Fragments of the monsters' bodies floated in the air. Stonageria was secretly pleased. "From now on, I'll show these hero candidates the true power of the earth element." Immediately, a series of mud projectiles shot straight towards the hero candidates. Mireille quickly reached out to control the earth and rocks, blocking the counterattack. Mireille's power was telekinesis, so she began the process of taking control of the earth and rocks. She held them all back, not missing a single one. Stonageria looked on in astonishment. "What? My control over those rocks is being surpassed." Rin seized the opportunity and used her power of dominance. Stonageria was hit and was immobilized on the spot. He was bound by dazzling lightning bolts, his limbs and body restrained. Stonageria's face was distorted and contorted. Stonageria's hand froze in mid-air, a restraining skill, huh. Erasure quickly jumped up and launched an attack. Stonageria thought in panic, a defensive wall of earth and stone is rising from below. A large explosion occurred over a wide area after Arashi's punch, accompanied by an explosion. It was because Stonageria had erected a wall in time to block the blow. He smirked triumphantly, this much isn't enough to destroy my defenses. Arashi's fist was still stuck to the wall. Another power was used, instant teleportation. Midu immediately appeared behind Stonageria with his sword in hand. He launched a sharp slash. Stonageria strained, gripping the hilt of his blade tightly in his hand. And easily caught Midu's blade. Stonageria said with disdain, even though I'm being restrained, is this the best you can do? Mirai continued to use her telekinetic ability. Then she countered Stonageria, here, I'm returning these rocks to you. Narumi began using wind control magic. Launching a wind-based attack. Stonageria was startled by the scene, attacks were constantly coming at him from all sides. He growled in anger, thinking, they're attacking me from multiple angles, then shouted, but even so, you won't destroy my defenses. Immediately, the stone wall expanded and was deployed, a large drill knocked Midu and Erasure away. Yumi, on this side, worriedly spat water, this is all yours. Torrential streams of water appeared, hitting his earth and stone drill. Stonageria was startled when he noticed the stone wall showing signs of getting wet. He worried, this is bad. If it gets wet, it won't be hard anymore. Then a whole series of rocks, controlled by Mirai, rushed in. Midu shouted furiously, end it. At the same time, Erasure punched angrily into die. Just a few seconds later, the sturdy stone wall was completely shattered by the warriors' attacks. Stonageria, only now realizing the danger, emitted some terrifying sounds. He moved frantically, still thinking we could hold out. Stonageria was hit with a series of attacks, pushed back, he thought, but at this rate, our defense will be destroyed. Suddenly, Stonageria's eyes flashed with a ferocious look, I bet everything on converting all defensive mana. A series of magic circles appeared, transforming into offensive mana. But before he could do that, Kai's eyes noticed the weak point. And in a flash, his dagger plunged straight into his forehead, blood spurted out and Stonageria, one of the 4 heavenly kings, was in dire straits. Stonageria, after screaming, his whole body trembled, then his eyes slowly turned white, losing his life. Then the large body slowly collapsed to the ground in front of everyone. Everyone was stunned but also very happy. Then cheering and sharing joy, we did it. The two were standing in front of the corpse, the crowd called their names. Midu and Erasure had defeated Stonageria. But Midu knew the situation well, he thought, they are wrong. Erasure also knew that, his eyes focused on the corpse, it wasn't us, something happened in the last few minutes. Then Erasure paid attention to the weapon that had defeated this high-ranking demon. He picked up the dagger and examined it. Then said, this dagger, don't tell me it's. Midu, seeing Erasure hesitate, also turned his eyes towards the direction where the dagger had been thrown. He saw a crack in the ceiling above. Midu blurted out, it turned out to be Shinjuku-kun. Erasure frowned and cursed, damn it, that bastard. Narumi stretched and walked forward smiling, our plan has succeeded. Midu smiled, yes, we did it. He thought to himself, everything went according to plan. Midu looked towards the group of women. Thanks to Kinoshita, we could go so far. But at the last moment, Stonageria released a huge amount of energy from his body. He realized our plan was like child's play, that's why Shinju was watching us so he could intervene at the right time. Mirai walked over to Midu, smiling and saying, I don't know why you have that expression, but now we should celebrate, right? He hesitated, in fact she immediately stepped over and interrupted, if you want to say, I'll listen later. Looking at the corpse lying there, Mirai continued, we just defeated one of the 4 heavenly kings. Today is good, she said, then she pushed Midu's back towards the people to celebrate together, making him unable to react. Standing in the crowd were constant praises for him, Midu did a great job, amazing, we are so united. For a moment, Midu was a bit stunned. But then he immediately smiled friendly and joined everyone in the celebration. Erasure also realized this so he was also confused with thoughts in his head. His teammates also came over, Atsushi praised, good job, Arashizan Kenta was excited, I was very nervous just now, I will follow you to learn for the rest of my life. Erasure sighed, shut up, I'm not the one who destroyed him. The two friends immediately lowered their voices, I'm sorry. Chao folded his arms and looked at him, Erasure, I know why you are so bitter. Holding the dagger tightly in his hand, he asked Chao again, you saw it too, right? Chao replied, yes because I was standing very close, but don't worry. He was only worried about the end. Erasure clenched the dagger even more. Chao's voice continued to ring out, you really pushed the 4 heavenly kings to the wall, it was you and Midu, that's enough. After hearing this, Erasure felt a little relieved, didn't say anything more. After a while, Midu was standing there catching his breath. He stood from the top of the wall and shouted down, we killed the 4 heavenly kings, Stonageria. He held up his head and demanded, you guys surrender immediately. Seeing that, the demon soldiers were as if they had lost their souls, dropping their weapons to the ground and trembling, Stone-sama has lost. Amelia raised her sword and shouted loudly, this is our victory. The soldiers also cheered and responded. Heinrich smiled, finally they did it. In the block of stone, there are now the cheers of the soldiers. Looking from the inside through the window down, Kai was relieved, finally done. Mare had some doubts, but the number of soldiers on both sides was still about the same. Kai turned around to explain, the demon army was led by a person of high prestige. When the leader on that side was defeated, they didn't have enough ability to resist anymore. Mare realized, you reminded me, I just noticed, the same thing happened when we defeated Wimberg, not a single demon chased us. Kai poured out a cup of hot tea and added, that is one of the weaknesses of the demon army. She turned to ask in a confused way, but is it really okay? Mare continued, you killed Stonageria, I thought your purpose was to train your friends. Kai replied, I felt a terrifying killing intent coming from Stonageria when he transformed, I didn't want my friends to be killed before they could grow up. He drank his tea and added, anyway, that is also the main job of an assassin, I hope that at least they understand. Mare smiled, you are protecting your friends too much, do you know that? Putting down the teacup, Kai gently replied, I've been thinking about it for days, aren't you going to call me by name? My name is Shinju Kai. Hearing that, Mare blushed a little, embarrassed, no, because I don't know what to call you. She lowered her voice, softly said, so can I call you Kai? He held the glass of water in his hand, casually replied, okay, then he turned to question her. Why are you blushing? Her face was flushed but she still denied it, nothing. At this time, he turned back, thinking about the past, we have killed 2 of the 4 great heavenly kings. The image of Isabel appeared, he stated, but there are truly strong descendants of the demon like Isabel, there are definitely still stronger creatures hiding out there. He said to himself, it seems that the process of killing the demon is still very long. A voice came from somewhere, you're making things harder, only to see a tall girl lying on the ground. She clearly showed an attitude of hatred. But that guy just casually smiled and said, it's great that your heart is still intact, but you can't move anymore, right? Then he ordered the soldier behind him, you, convey my words to the auxiliary units, I have captured the princess, now the Beastman alliance has finally ended. A week after defeating the heavenly kings of the earth. The atmosphere in the kingdom is becoming brighter thanks to the recent successes of the army, everyone reads the news and rejoices in it. This victory boosted the morale of the knights, they were relaxed and had happy parties, eating, drinking and singing. And added to the reputation of the hero candidates, they became the hope for mankind, they were welcomed and praised when they returned on the streets. In the main hall, the king declared, with the success in subduing one of the 4 great heavenly kings of the demon army, I would like to send you my most sincere greetings. Below was Midu kneeling in ceremony. Then he announced, Midu Shuji, you will be knighted as a lord. He bowed his head and said yes, but didn't seem very comfortable. After going through the royal ceremonial procedures as well as the reward time chatting in the main hall, returning to the room now were only sighs. Everyone was sitting around the tea table, Midu grimaced, so tired. Mireille smiled and looked over to ask, you're tired too, Midukun, he replied, who do you think I am? Amelia held a teacup in her hand and said, already tired like this, is that a sign of old age? He is the captain of the 4th Knight Legion. Heinrich spoke for Midu, he was not taught the etiquette of a noble like us, Amelia, we taught him a bit about basic etiquette and simple rituals before he was knighted, stayed up all night, you did very well even though it was the first time. Midu smiled, the pressure at that time, if I was rude to the king, what if I was blamed later, it would make our position worse. Heinrich winked, it's better to be blamed like that than to be under unnecessary pressure when dealing with the kingdom's problems. Amelia turned to say, you were also just knighted, then you will have to do the same things, Midu asked, being a noble is also tiring, isn't it? Heinrich enjoyed the hot tea and replied, I don't want to show off, but you don't need to worry about me. Amelia leaned back in the chair and continued, anyway, the church also holds a certain amount of power in the kingdom, we knights of the Holy Kingdom also have to be under the management of the church, the title you received this time was also assigned to His Majesty according to the Pope's order. Heinrich added, so now you are officially a part of the Knight Legion in the Empire, you will be the captain of the 11th Knight Legion. Also known as the Hero Army, you will command the strongest raiding force, including hero candidates. Midu wondered if the knights were under the control of the church. Then what is the meaning of giving me the title of knight? Heinrich asked again. There are a lot of complex issues related to the participation of state and government bodies. Do you want to know? Hearing that, Midu immediately turned off the intention to continue listening. Heinrich reminded, no matter what, you are standing in the same position as us. Authority comes with responsibility, remember that. In the morning, blue sky and white clouds in the forest outside the castle. Kai stood there and asked Rin, Midu has become captain already. She nodded and replied, yes, it was Midu who requested a position of authority in the state structure. Mare smiled, I don't understand much, but it's good, right? Kai argued, the kingdom wants to make Midu a symbol of empowerment for him, meaning they want to show everyone that the hero candidates are under the control of the kingdom. Mare looked confused, a little flustered. In short, isn't that good news? He continued to explain, after defeating the Demon King, we will be able to return to our world. This kingdom is using us for that reason, but don't get too carried away by it. Kai remembered Leonora. In the end, this kingdom's treatment of us is just like Leonora's methods. We are just pawns they can sacrifice at any time. Rin agreed, we should be more careful. She blushed slightly and asked, oh, and one more thing, who is the person standing next to you? Kai startled, looked over, and introduced, this is Mare, a half-elf and a mage. Mare smiled broadly, waved and said, nice to meet you. Rin politely replied, nice to meet you too. Then, pointing, she wondered, hey, don't you and this girl have some kind of relationship, Shinju? Mare calmly replied, I'm just his companion on this journey. And what about you, what's your relationship with Kai? Rin was startled when she heard her call Kai's name so familiarly. Then, she replied awkwardly, I'm his friend. Kai interrupted, saying to Rin, you're terrible, whose friend? Then he introduced to Mare, this is Kanzaki Rin, she's my colleague. Rin blushed when she heard the word colleague. Mare winked and asked mischievously, were you two this close in the old world too? His reply was, I've never spoken to her. Rin also nodded and said, that's right. Kai brushed it off and asked, anyway, you said your mission was to defeat the Demon King, right? Rin nodded slightly. He continued, like the battle with Stonageria, I'll move like your shadow, Kanzaki, be the liaison for me and everyone else. Rin quickly cut him off, wait a minute, can I come with you? Kai asked again, you want to come with me? He looked at the two girls in front of him as if realizing something, his lips quivering slightly. I see. Rin was eagerly waiting, while Mare remained very innocent. Kai shook his head, no, I have to refuse, without you, I have no way to contact everyone. He looked directly into Rin's eyes and said seriously, they don't like me. For me, your position is very important. It was a convoluted way of confessing. Hearing this, Rin blushed slightly, pretended to raise her hand to cough lightly, and then replied, well, I guess I can't do anything else, huh? She remembered Narumi and Midu and added, but there are still many people who appreciate you a lot, especially Midu-kun. Kai closed his eyes, bowed his head slightly, and said, Midu is probably thinking of a way to fight without relying on me, but that's okay, he needs to develop his thinking in order to defeat the Demon King. Rin asked Kai, do you really want to make everyone stronger, Shinju-kun? He honestly replied, I can't defeat the Demon King's army alone. Mare and I killed one of the 4 heavenly kings, but we almost lost. It was a bit difficult at that time. Rin was shocked to hear that, you've defeated another of the 4 heavenly kings, just the 2 of you. Mare smiled, it was dangerous at the time, we defeated Wimberg the heavenly king of wind. Rin looked at Kai thoughtfully, with everyone present, we were almost evenly matched when fighting Stonageria, but these two. She turned to look at Mare, moreover, this girl, whom Shinju-kun trusts, is not like an ordinary girl. Rin clenched her fists, compared to her, I am completely useless in the fight against Stonageria. Kai remembered Isabel's words that there were creatures in the Demon King's army stronger than the 4 heavenly kings, then he said to Rin, with our current strength, we can't complete this mission. He walked past her and gently reminded, Kanzaki, be careful in observing the movements of everyone in the class and of the kingdom, I will contact you frequently. Rin turned around and replied, I understand. Kai walked away and asked her to pass on the message, I'm working on my own way to defeat the Demon King. Tell Midu that. Then Kai called out, let's go, Mare. The girl quickly ran after him, not forgetting to wave goodbye to Rin. After defeating Stonageria, one of the 4 heavenly kings of the Demon King, the Holy Kingdom's army began a large-scale invasion. Thanks to the collaboration of the 11th Legion of Knights, the Heroic Brigade, the morale of the army increased, and they used this momentum to push back the front lines. As a result, the Holy Kingdom's army successfully captured many fortresses around the Urugano Mountains. And the city of Nutrat was liberated. Midu was the leader in this battle. This result was achieved not only thanks to the defeat of Stonageria, the commander of the Demon King's army around the territory. However, the Holy Kingdom's army did not know the final details. Kai was always acting secretly. After the end, celebrations were held with many nobles and officials in the kingdom. Narumi, with a large glass of beer in his hand, raised it and took a big swig. He laughed loudly. Celebrating the victory like this is so fun. Mireille, holding her head, asked, "Ugh, you drink beer like it's water." Narumi winked. In this world, 15 is the age of adulthood. In short, people like me can drink beer. Immediately, Mireille gave him a head pat and scolded, "We'll be going back to the old world soon." Then she snatched the beer glass and left. Narumi lay there, regretful. "Why did you do that, my beer?" Everyone who witnessed the two seemed happy. Rina turned to Midu and said, "You're stressed again. Just for today, let's just let loose." Mireille saw her holding a glass of wine, immediately pointed her finger sharply. "You too, that's wine, right?" Rina raised the glass to drink and replied, "It's just fruit juice, dear." Midu, standing nearby, wondered, "Really? But anyway, I didn't expect things to go so smoothly." A voice from behind caught Midu's attention. Heike said to Satoshi, "It seems our command chain is in chaos. Have they become this weak after losing only one of the heavenly kings?" Hearing that, Midu was a bit startled. They reminded him, and he realized he had also suspected that. Thinking it over, he still felt they were really too weak. He turned and said to the two, "I thought it was a trap." Amelia-san and the others thought so too, but in the end, there was no trap. Rina looked over and asked, "Don't you think you're being too cautious, Shuji? The devil's army is just a collection of fools, isn't it?" Midu replied, "Perhaps Shinju is moving like our shadow." Rina frowned and waved it off. How could he possibly defeat him? Rin heard the conversation, put down her glass of wine on the table, and said, "That's right, just like Midu-kun said." She said seriously to everyone, "While we were fighting, Shinju-kun had destroyed their defensive forces." Everyone was extremely surprised to hear this. "What did you say, really?" Rin smiled. "Yes, he also said he had defeated another one of the heavenly kings who was stationed around this area. The reason the defenses around here are so weak is because of his efforts." Heike was surprised. Shinju defeated one of the 4 heavenly kings all by himself. Midu also exclaimed, "Truly, it's Shinju." Narumi, slightly drunk, chimed in, "Maybe he's moving like our shadow, maybe, no, he's a monster." Rina immediately objected, "Why do you believe those words? It's definitely a lie." Then she called Arashir from afar, "Do you think so too, Arashir?" He was munching on a chicken leg and turned around, asking, "What?" Remembering the dagger at that moment, he didn't know what else to say. Then he turned back and continued eating chicken, replying, "I don't care." Rina frowned, "What's wrong with you?" Mireille slammed her beer mug on the table and said loudly, "Even so, I still don't want to forgive him." Rina asked her, "You understand me, right?" Meanwhile, Midu whispered to Rin, "Where is Shinju-kun?" She hesitated a little. "I don't know much about that, but he said he's moving in his own way to destroy the devil. The western territory of the city of Nutrat, in the territory of the Demon Kingdom." In the forest, Kai was surrounded by several blue demon soldiers. Their ugly faces and the large axes in their hands roared and then swung down. He gently jumped to the side to avoid it. Immediately, another demon soldier jumped in to attack. But before it could strike, Kai had used his prepared handful of earth and threw it towards it. The sand flew straight into its face, causing the demon soldier to lose its sight. At that moment, Kai raised his hand and chanted, "O lightning, strike down my enemy." As he finished, lightning appeared in the palm of his hand. Suddenly, a hand of a demon soldier shot out. Kai exclaimed in surprise, "What?" Somehow, it had teleported to the side and was preparing to strike him. A voice rang out, "Fire salamander." Immediately, a large flame appeared, burning the demon soldiers standing there. They were burned black and lay dead scattered around him. Kai said, "Don't do unnecessary things, Mayor." She jumped down from above, replying, "If your magic wasn't ineffective, why would I have to get involved?" He looked at his palm and said, "It's hard. I thought I could control my energy, but I can't even use basic magic." Mayor began to explain, "Your magic element is really rare. It's lightning, agile and powerful, but wild and unpredictable, so it's extremely difficult to control." She added, "You can use it to some extent for a short amount of time, just that alone is already unusual. Understand, if you had the same divine element as your classmates, you could use magic easily." Kai examined the lightning in his hand and asked, "Lightning is just basic magic. During training, I was able to use it already. Why do you think it didn't activate in the previous battle?" Mayor replied, "Because you were distracted by the enemy in front of you. you need a clear image when using magic. Magic and incantations are almost the same, you have to create a clear image of the phenomenon you desire. She added, that's the reason why magic isn't prioritized in close combat. Kai quickly interrupted, however, I have to use it in close combat like this, or else I wouldn't have any reason to use it. He was still listening attentively to Mayer's explanation. I know, but it's also very difficult, you know, right, but why do you want to learn how to use magic now? Kai replied, it's just that I need a new skill. Currently, I'm not strong enough to defeat the devil. To be honest, I don't really like this type of ability. But thanks to your knowledge of magic, I gained a new ability like this. You truly are the disciple of the sage. Hearing his praise, Mayer blushed slightly. She smiled shyly, well, that's what I'm best at. Something caught Kai's attention. The demon soldiers reappeared and suddenly surrounded the two. Each of them had a fierce look, glaring at him with menacing killing intent. The two stood back to back. Kai was excited, just what I need. Some test subjects. Mayer smiled and asked, there's no way you can defeat this horde on your own, right? The number of demon soldiers seemed to be more than before, and their level was higher too. Regardless of the numbers, with the thought you're all surrounded by me alone, Kai charged towards them, with lightning in his hand. He turned towards the demon soldiers and used lightning stance. Lightning bolts appeared, shocking the demons, causing them to scream in pain and become numb. The remaining ones were stunned, some were only slightly burned but not much affected. Kai took out a dagger, thinking, finally, I can use it in actual combat, but the firepower is still lacking. A demon soldier seized the opportunity, rushing in and swinging its staff down. He stomped his foot and retreated, successfully dodging. Then Kai jumped onto a nearby tree branch. Then used his speed as well as his familiar lightning-fast attacks to strike down from below. The demon soldiers below looked up in bewilderment, unable to keep up with his movements. Sharp daggers were launched towards the demon soldiers. All of them were stabbed in vital spots, spurting blood and falling dead. The smaller demons, whose turn it wasn't yet, still stood there waiting to die. Looking at them, Kai thought, in the current situation, it's best to channel mana into the daggers and throw them. Their accuracy and firepower are also more assured. I need time to create a clear shape and chant the spell, but once I master it, it will be a great skill. The demons showed no sign of retreating. Another one jumped in, striking down with its sharp claws. One slash across, and its head was severed from its neck. Then he held onto a tall tree, hanging there and looking down. Kai suddenly realized that more soldiers were coming. Kai jumped down, ready with daggers in hand. He dashed through, quickly handling them with his weapons, and finishing them off. Then Kai jumped onto the high branch again, continuing to observe his surroundings. Suddenly, the tree was shaking violently. Below, a fiery red demon soldier with a large staff was hitting the base of the tree where he was standing. Kai looked down and clicked his tongue, thinking, just as expected, there are too many of them. The large tree was broken. He jumped down. Then he looked at the demons in front of him. Behind them, there was a much larger one. It had two long horns and seemed quite calm compared to the others. Its body was twice as big. He used his appraisal eye to assess it. Looks like the boss is here. Very good, you'll become my test subject. Two daggers in hand, Kai's whole body exuded a strong killing intent. The testing conditions were too perfect. Mayer seemed tired. There are too many of them, I can't finish them all. She continuously used fire attacks, burning the demon soldiers alive. After a while, Mayer called out, hey Kai, let's get out of here. This isn't very feasible. He nodded in agreement. Understood, that's enough for today. Kai walked away, leaving behind a mountain of demon corpses. Then the two ran out of the forest. Mayer sighed in exhaustion. He concluded, besides the large number of monsters, their level is also quite high. This is not a place humans can live. Mayer replied, because the demons can control low-intelligence monsters, so this is probably not a problem for them. Kai agreed, that's why this land is only suitable for demons, huh. The two stopped in front of a somewhat gloomy cliff. Looking down below, there were countless demon soldiers. This was the true territory of the demon kingdom. Trouble's coming. A week after Shinju's reconnaissance. The Holy Nation is on the offensive and began invading the demon kingdom soon after liberating some territories. The army moved on the path through the forest. A group of people was surrounded. Monsters reappeared, ready. But the number and level of monsters in this area are completely different from those in the Holy Nation's territories. Even though they are not a threat to hero candidates and knights. But for ordinary soldiers, they are becoming food to serve the monsters. Amelia yelled, don't falter, hold the formation and fight them. Heinrich was a little worried, their numbers are too many, we are completely overwhelmed, we are attacked by all the monsters at the same time, which means. Midu followed up, a high-ranking demon, right. In front of them at this moment was indeed a demon with a glass of blood in her hand. She had a pair of horns on both sides. She opened her mouth and swallowed each drop of blood. From the top of the wall looking down at the forest in front of her, she said, "I will not let any mistakes happen. She is the high-ranking demon Elsa, no matter how many monsters she has to use. Let's weaken their military strength, and once they are exhausted, we will start a counterattack." The soldiers were startled when they saw the demon soldiers, the army of the demon lord. Midu turned back and shouted, "Amelia, we have to retreat, at this rate we will be destroyed." She replied, "Okay, I understand, everyone retreat, go back to the path where we started." A lot of soldiers were defeated and lying there. 2 giant demon soldiers stepped forward. Truneg, after stepping on some corpses, laughed loudly, "Such an easy victory, we overestimated them, even using monsters to hold them back." Another guy turned around and said, "Anyway, this is Elsa-sama's order, she is very careful." The other agreed, "Thanks to her, we won so easily, it's like this that the enemy will know the difference between us and our army." The pink demon soldier interjected, "By the way, we've already conquered the Beastmen Alliance, right? If that's the case, the higher-ups are taking the war against humans very seriously, huh?" The grey demon soldier replied, "Maybe so our victory is a foregone conclusion. However, I also admire their strength, because they defeated 2 of the 4 heavenly kings, that's an undeniable truth." Inside the bushes, Kai and Mare were still secretly observing the situation. Mare was surprised and asked, "They conquered the Beastmen Alliance, what do you mean by that? I've never heard of this before." Kai pondered, "We have some interesting information here, Mare, help me find some more information." Back in the kingdom city, the atmosphere was somewhat gloomy after the consecutive victories. In the infirmary area, many wounded soldiers were being treated, lying in rows with moans. A meeting was immediately organized. The leaders sat around a long table. Amelia spoke up, "All human territories have been retaken. Sadly, as soon as we ventured into the demon world, we were defeated." She looked at everyone and asked, "That's our current situation, does anyone have any suggestions?" 2 old generals, one couldn't think of anything, the other was pensive. "The problem is how can we fight against the endless waves of monsters, right? If we don't find a solution, we won't be able to fight against the demons properly." Another general spoke up, "From the beginning, I didn't know that the demons would have tricks to use monsters like that. I know it's the effect of some kind of magic." Heinrich analyzed, "Until recently, the demon lord's army had been at war with us without any suitable tactics. Only after a series of failures, they began to take us seriously." Midu surmised, "Surely there is some cunning person commanding them. It's possible that the waves of monsters we've encountered are caused by a high-ranking demon." The general announced with his arms crossed, "Based on the reports I received from the scouts, there are a lot of monsters inside that forest. As long as we get out of that forest, we can fight them properly." Amelia said, "That forest is quite large but doesn't have many paths. It's impossible to go through that forest with the entire army. Do you think the enemy commander will let us do that freely?" The silver-haired general suggested, "I think it's best that we gather the troops right now." He frowned and continued, "Although we have achieved positive results in liberating many territories, we also suffered great losses. Moreover, in the last battle, we lost even more." Another person agreed and said, "First of all, we have completed the goal of reclaiming our lost territories. It's true that we used the high fighting spirit of the soldiers to push back the demons, but right now that's impossible." Mido listened attentively. Mireille, sitting there, raised her hand to make a suggestion. "Can I say a few words? Our mission is to subdue the demon lord, right?" The old generals replied, "That's right, if it were that easy, we wouldn't be having difficulties right now." Amelia asked Hashimoto, "Do you have any suggestions?" She scratched her head and smiled, "How about we increase the army?" Amelia replied, "That's difficult, there's no use in increasing the number of troops, we will be slowed down in this process." Midu thought, "Everyone has their own abilities in this world. No matter how many soldiers we gather to face the monsters, fighting them will only increase the number of casualties." At this moment, he spoke up, "Because we need to strengthen the army's power, we should focus on our elite forces." Amelia agreed, "That's right, even if you search the entire kingdom, you won't find anyone as strong as those here, on the front lines, they are also experienced warriors." She continued, "If we want to increase our strength, we should focus on training our army. Furthermore, instead of increasing the number of soldiers, which would take time, this method is much more practical." The old general seemed to feel better about this plan. Midu realized, finally understanding why he felt uneasy, "Their goal and ours are completely different. Our goal is to defeat the demon lord and return to the real world, while the holy nation is trying to solve their own problems." He looked at the carefree, unconcerned faces of the old generals. That's why they had no problem maintaining the status quo. Heinrich seemed to observe his anxiety. He turned to look at him and asked, Midu, what do you think? Midu said frankly, based on the current discussion, it will take us many years to defeat the Demon Lord. I want to defeat the Demon Lord as soon as possible. Amelia suggested, anyway, we also need time to train an elite army. It will take about 2 years for us to recover our strength. Midu was a bit taken aback. 2 years seemed like too long for them. One of the generals said, defeating the Demon Lord as soon as possible would be the best for us, but the reality is that we were defeated in enemy territory. It will be very difficult for us to invade their territory again. The other person turned and smiled, considering the result. This is already a great success, isn't it? Finally, we have liberated the lost territories, all thanks to you heroes. Midu thanked him, but his heart was heavy, so, the decision has been made. He remembered his friends, they wanted to go home as soon as possible. He was pretty sure that many people felt the same way. He didn't know if they would accept this decision. Heinrich and Amelia both noticed Midu's discomfort. After a while, everyone left the meeting room and walked out. Heinrich said to Midu, I understand how you feel, but Amelia's judgment is based on the situation of our kingdom. To overcome this situation, we need a stronger force. It's sad that that's not something we can easily decide. You agree with that? You're right, I understand. Heinrich added, but I don't want you to rush to think. He turned and asked, you think the same as me? He replied, you don't want your friends to die, right? Impatience only brings disaster, that's why I told you to. Hearing those words really made Midu think more. Heinrich looked out the window down towards the training grounds. Down there, everyone was training, he continued. Furthermore, although the hero candidates are very strong, you still have a lot of room to develop your strength. It's best that you spend time preparing for the defeat of the Demon Lord. Mireille turned and said, now that you mention it, everyone wants to go home, but right now, this way is probably better than death. She remembered that if Heinrich hadn't come to save them when they were defeated by Stonage Area, they would all be dead by now. Heinrich added, the nature of the demon world is to devour the weak. There are probably entities even stronger than the 4 heavenly kings. He explained, I'm sorry to have to put it this way, but we are counting on you. It will be very difficult for you to defeat the Demon Lord with your current strength. Midu understood the situation and replied, I know, I'll gather everyone and summarize it for them. He had thought very carefully, just like what Heinrich had said. We can't rush, I won't let you die. After returning, Midu summarized the meeting for everyone. Erasure sat with his legs crossed on the table and loudly said, hey, don't joke around anymore.